Hey, what's up everybody? This is Monster Zero and I'm back again today with another video. Have you ever wondered what the hell a Glen is? You've heard me talk about my Glen. If you've been around HeadFi or maybe some of the other headphone forums, you've heard people talk about their Glen or their GOTL. What is it? Well, that's what this video today is about. We're going to make it a little bit short, but hopefully after this you will know a little bit more about the Glen and how to get one for yourself. When I first got into this hobby, I started off with an OTL, and I won't name the company who made it, but it was an okay amp, and I had a Bayer Dynamic T1 at the time, and I wasn't really happy with the sound of the headphone, and so I sold the headphone, and then I didn't have any headphones that I could use in an OTL, so I sold that. Then I got another OTL amp, and was pretty happy with that for the price, and I started communicating with other people in the forums who were moving from this OTL or that OTL into something called a Glen. So I got on the internet and I'm looking up Glen OTL, and other than on HeadFi, I couldn't find a website. I couldn't find one on Amazon. I couldn't find it anywhere. I'm like, what the hell is this? This thing is like a mythical beast. Well, Glen is the name of the guy who makes the amp. I'm not even going to try to say his last name. Right something. I don't know. Anyway, sorry, Glenn. So a couple of the members that I talked to that had moved to the Glen got me interested in checking out what this Glen thing was all about. And the only way to order a Glen, it's unconventional. Like I said, there's no website. He has a thread on HeadFi called Glen Studios. And the only way to order it is to go into that thread and say, hey, Glen, build me an amp. And that's it. That's all there is to it. That's the only way to order it. Pay for half of the amp up front. He works on your amp. When he's done, he sends you a private message and says, okay, your amp is done. Give me the rest of the money. You send him the rest of the money. And within a few short days, you will have this beautiful Glen OTL for yourself. And that's how to order a Glen. There is no other way. So what makes the Glen so special? First of all, it's highly customizable. You can get Glen to build you pretty much anything that you want. The dude is like a friggin' mad scientist. It's like, yeah, build me something with, and just pull some esoteric tube out of the air, and Glen will say, okay, yeah, I can do that, and he will. But basically, in my Glen, I have a 1, 2, 3, 4. I have a 10 tube slot Glen. It's one of the biggest that he's made. I called it the Monster. And I have probably over 1 million different tube combinations that I can put into the Glen. Now, if you try that with some of these other OTLs on the market, you'll end up blowing up your house. But on the Glen, pretty much the sky's the limit. You can do with it, as long as you follow the rules that he tells you, okay, you can do this with it, you can do that with it. There's a plethora of different tubes that you can roll into it. So you can pinpoint the exact sound signature that you want by changing either the rectifier or the power tubes or the driver, or some guys like to use a triple driver configuration. Some guys have the hex Fred solid state rectifier. I have the tube rectifier with, I can even put in a little hex Fred plug-in. Millions of different combinations. So it's crazy how many different tubes that you can put into the Glen. As far as the performance goes, we have some Glen owners who also own amps that cost over $5,000. And they have a hard time deciding which one sounds better. And it seems to be right around the $5,000 mark before you start to see a difference in performance over the Glen. Okay, and again, these guys are having to go back and forth and go, yeah, well, this part of the Glen is better, but this part of this $5,000 amp is better. So the price for performance is off the charts. You're going to have to spend, like I said, near $5,000 or above before you can start topping what the Glen can do. So you have a million different tube rolls, if not more, that you can put into the Glen. It's highly customizable. You can get a basic Glen with just 2 power tubes and a driver tube and call it a day, or you can go balls out like I did. You can get a switch in the back, and that'll allow you to roll either a 6-volt driver or a 12-volt driver or a 25-volt driver. So you can go as crazy as you want. Additionally, Glen also makes a EL3N amp. I just call it Ellen, even though that's not the name of it, or Gellin. I have not heard that, but the owners that have it say it's a fantastic amp. Now that, I believe, starts around $2,000. And then he also makes a 300B amp, which is supposedly a beast, and that can drive the HE6, the Abyss, headphones like that, and speakers. That's, I think, about four or 5,000. My build was, I believe, 1,500. But the basic Glen, just the basic, no frills, no thrills Glen, I think is around $700 or $800. Don't quote me on that. Now, there is a wait time. You can't pick up the phone or drop him a message and say, hey, Glen, build me an amp and have it on your doorstep the following week. The popularity of this amp is growing, and Zach from ZMF is now taking his Glen to all of the can jams and letting people all over the world hear for themselves what the Glen sounds like. And when they hear it, they're coming into the thread and they're ordering their own builds. So the last time I checked, which was about a few days ago, his wait time for a build was about 6 months. Now, recently, one Glen did go up in the for sale section of HeadFi, and it sold in exactly 61 minutes. So it's very rare that you're going to find one on the used market because everybody loves their Glen. So if you have a ZMF or an HD800 or an HD650 or a bigger T1, any high impedance headphone, you need to check out the Glen. It is a fantastic friggin' amp. And believe it or not, in the Glen, you can also drive planners and you can also drive low ohm headphones as well, which on most OTLs you can't do that, but the output, the impedance, I believe, on the Glen is relatively low. So if you drop a pair of 6336 tubes into your Glen, you can drive an AK ridiculously good. Like, it makes my K701 sound like $1,000, $1,500 pair of headphones. It's ridiculous how good it sounds out of my Glen. Blew my mind. Now, there is a downside to all that tube rolling. The downside is what it's going to do to your pocketbook. Because there's so many different combinations and different owners are trying this set of tubes and they tell you, oh my God, this is the best roll I've ever heard. Well, you got to go out and get those tubes. And tubes can be very expensive. I have a pair of power tubes that I paid $500 for. I've got a rectifier that typically goes for between $300 and $500 for a single tube. I've got a couple drivers that were a couple $100. But Glenn says that it will sound good with $5 tubes. And you know what? He's right. It does. It does sound very, very good with inexpensive tubes. But if you're got deep pockets and you want to spend money on some higher end tubes, you're going to take the Glen to a ridiculous performance level, especially for the price. So let's go take a look at my Glen and I'll show it to you for a little bit and give you a better idea of what the hell all these loony guys in the Glen thread are talking about. All right, so this is my Glen. You will notice on the front here we have the power button, volume, single-ended, and a not really actually balanced input. Over here, this is the rectifier slot. Now you can order the Glen with a tube rectifier, or you can actually have a solid state rectifier referred to as a hex thread put in there. I opted to have mine built with either or, so I can take a tube out and put in a little solid state hex thread. I personally don't like the way the hex thread sounds. I much prefer the tube, and this is my beautiful GEC U1820 on an adapter built by a wonderful gentleman in Bulgaria named Dayan, who hangs out in the Gled thread. Sorry if I butchered your name, Dayan. In this slot, this is where your driver goes. Now on most amps, you're going to be able to pop in a 6 volt and a 6 volt only, but not on the Glen. You can have Glen put a voltage switch around the back. I'll try to show that to you in a minute. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it or not. That you can switch and give it 6, 12, or 25 volt option. So why would you want to do that? Okay, well, some of these 6 volt drivers, like this Kenrad here, can be rather pricey because most of the amps use the 6 volt version. However, you can find 12 volt versions that sound basically identical to the 6 volt for much less money. So the 6, 12, 25 volt option pays for itself just in savings in tubes. So this is where this goes. Right now I've got a 6 volt driver in there. Behind there, you'll notice 2 empty slots. That's where your C3G tubes can go, or other tubes with adapters if you so choose. Some owners have even gone for a triple driver configuration where they put a driver here, and then they put an EL8 or an I don't know the other ones, but you can do all sorts of crazy experimentations with the Glen. And then around on the back, you have where your drivers go. You'll notice I've got 6 BX7s in there right now. Now you can put just 2 of those in there, or 4, or 6, whatever you want to do. I go for 6. You can also put 6 AS7Gs, you can put 5998s, you can put 6080s, you can put 6336s, and if you want to get more adapters, you can put even more different kinds of tubes into the Glen. Try that with another type of OTL and you're going to blow it up. All right, I'm going to try to swing around back and show you the back of it, but I don't know how good this is going to come out. So here you have your switch, which you can change to give it either 6 volt, 12 volt, or 25 volt. Here you have the input, and here I had Glenn put in some preamp outputs for powered monitors, but I don't have powered monitors. And then around back, you have the Lundell transformer upgrade, which I also ponied up for, and that supposedly has a much quieter background than the standard issue one. So there you have it, the Glen OTL. So there you have it, boys and girls, the Glen OTL. I hope this shed some lights and pulled the curtain back from the mystery of what it is. And if you have any questions or comments, drop them below. And hope you guys get over into Headfind, into the Glen thread, and order yourself one. It's truly a fantastic amp. This is Monster, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.